Welcome back again. I think we just had a very interesting session here on the stage about airline, about the industry, the aviation industry. We are now coming to the cruise industry as we are here on the cruise and airline industry stage. So we are very happy to welcome Georg Schmickler. He is Senior Vice President for Onboard Revenue at MSC Cruises. Please join me. Okay, so Georg, very happy to have you here. I mean, some years ago, we were talking about cruise. Is cruise ever coming back? Cruise as an industry during Corona, very hard dropped and very hard to come back in the industry again. And everyone was talking about, do we ever have masses of people on a cruise ship? And now we are back with the cruise industry. So just generally, how do you feel about the development, about the entire market situation?
Okay, first of all, it's very good to be back in Berlin here. Always great to be on ITB. Well, so as you can see also from the IPOs and public relations from the other cruise lines, cruise industry is in 2024, but also 2025, fully back. It's a very resilient company. It's a product which is very well perceived by the customers, and we got also to admit, when we look from Corona till now, it's also one of the products in the tourism industry which is a very good value for money.
Value for money? I think this brings us to the first aspect of the discussion we have today. Let's talk about sustainability. I mean, this is a topic was very, very faced in the front during all the last years, but I think it's getting a little bit not so noisy around sustainability this year. I think perhaps we had some other issues, but how are you creating sustainability? What are your thoughts about sustainability in the cruise industry?
Well, first of all, sustainability is a very big word. It includes pretty much everything. But there are three aspects I want to highlight on that. So first of all, the growth in the tourism industry, it's quite strong. But of course, it's a very natural growth because it's very much limited, natural limited, by the number of ships coming to the market. So it's completely different to the organized travel package or also to the unorganized travel package, where you can easily build new hotels and create supply. In the tourism industry, you have not even a handful of yards who can build ships, right? So we very much know the order books till up to 2023, 2033, 2024, so very much limited capacity coming in. So projected by CLIA, the number of cruise passengers by 2027 is around 40 million, which is a very tiny industry. Yeah? So compared to the overall travel market, it's a very tiny industry, and the growth in that is very much limited. Mm-hmm. Secondly, when we talk about sustainability, of course, obviously, the big topic which we have, it's decarbonization, right? It's decarbonization and zero green emissions till a certain amount of year we have already set. It's very much regulated. It's very much set targets by authorities, by EU regulations, and so on and so forth. And of course, we are also, like our peers do as well, have a lot of actions in place how to reach that goal. Nevertheless, just to give you a very practical example, is the cruise lines cannot do that only by their own. Just to give you an example, if I want really to place a ship or to bring a ship to operations in 2033 or 2033, I need to order it today. I need to design it today. I need to choose today which engines. I need to choose today which size, how big the gross tonnage is. And then it's from today down the road, 7, 8, 9 years till it's delivered. And then it has to run for 30 years and to be state of the art. It's very challenging really to drive this process. But of course, down the road you have milestones, how much we want to reach by LNG ships, how much we want, and this is especially very important for new builds, how much we want to have opt-in models to be ready for new fuels, for synthetic fuels, for LNG biofuels, and so on. This is a very extensive process which we are collaborating together with the yards especially and the suppliers to reach that goal. But having said that, the cruise lines are driving this process, but it needs the involvement of a lot of stakeholders to come there. So this is the second aspect. The third aspect is, of course, then at the end, destination stewardship. I would call it, to have this kind of over-tourism, crowded cities, which we know the pictures from Dubrovnik, but also from Santorini. And one of the actions all the major cruise lines do, not only MSC, is to create own experiences. To create really own experiences, like MSC is creating an own island called Ocean Cay, the other do the same, to really steer the demand, steer the people really into a structured way.
But exactly coming to these kind of destinations and what you're doing in the destinations, if you have this kind of artificially built islands or so, is it more economical aspect or is it ecological as well?
It's both. It's both. So especially if you look to Ocean Cay, so I can only speak for my company. Ocean Cay was, to be honest, when the family Aponte bought it, was an island was full of trash. Yeah. It was a trash island. So we rebuilt it, renaturalized it. We have now a marine reserve, an eco reserve there. We have some doctoral programs there for US universities coming there, doing their studies, doing their research. But it's more a kind of to have the value chain under control. But it's not only coming to these islands. So if you look to the entire value chain, then of course another big topic is which we want to have under control in a structured way in the destinations. It's terminal management. This is another topic, especially when we look to our customers and we look to the satisfaction rate, which we measure on NPS basis in MSC. When we look to the points which are very critical, then terminal management is one of the topics which are super critical for our clients and for our customers. But this is very natural. So if you look, because most of the terminals, like most of the ports, but also most of the harbors are coming from governmental affairs, coming from state ownership. So we see everywhere where we privatize the terminals. Like in a couple of weeks, we have our biggest private terminal in Miami. We have now a terminal board in Barcelona, which we just opened. Everywhere where we privatize it, where we modernize it, we see directly that we can steer the streams, the customer streams, in a much more structured way because we have it under control. And of course, we can create a much bigger value for the customer itself.
The customer. MSC, you're focusing on a double strategy, I would say. We look at the high volume offerings you have in the MSC organization, but you're also growing the luxury segment. How does it fit together and how can you align these kind of segments? And what does it mean in general for the entire industry?
Yeah. So first of all, the cruise lines don't choose that. So it's purely demand driven, as it is in hotels, the same. So depending really on your market segmentation, you need different offers for different customer groups. There you're fully right. You have this high volume segment. So in a couple of weeks, we have, for example, MSC World America inauguration, having more than 6,000 passengers on board, which you can say that the ship is a destination in itself, because the product offering, when it comes to special restaurants, when it comes to kids entertainment, so of course the variety of offerings is very different from the ships built 20 years ago. So this is a very different market segment, very much tailor-made to families, very much tailor-made to experiences, and so on and so forth. And then you have indeed the luxury segment, but in between you have also the premium segment, which we have in place with the MSC Yacht Club, which is a ship-in-ship concept, which is a very, very private area. But then coming to the luxury segment, MSC or Explorer Journeys, as you said, is also very much demand-driven. This is a product which we have launched just a couple of years ago. So we have 2 ships currently running on that, the 3rd ship coming soon. And we see there, especially from markets which already know the luxury industry very well from the hotel side, which are very mature. For that markets, this is a real product and a real substitution of product when it comes really to luxury hotels. So I'm talking biggest markets, of course, like US, which is very luxury driven, Great Britain, which is very luxury driven, but then also, of course, Germany, who's very luxury driven, and also know the luxury cruise industry from competitors or from peers like Hapag-Lloyd here or Silversea in the UK.
I mean, the industry is coming from the luxury side some decades ago. Now, I think MSC was one of the first ones in Europe to get cruise ships open to all the different target groups. Now you're heading on two different groups. I think with the ship-in-ship concept you just mentioned, you had the chance to go on one ship with two target groups. Now you are with Explorer Journeys, you're focusing on a new segment or on a further focused segment. Do you see, where do you see these two different markets evolving? Which one is growing faster from your point of view?
Well, so pure from the math you have to do. So coming from 22 ships in MSC Cruises to 23, and from Explorer from 2 to 3, of course, the luxury segment is growing, but this is a pure math topic.
Yeah.
It's very hard to generalize that question, to be honest, because in what you can see, and was maybe even more important, you can see, especially on Explorer Journeys, you see a lot of people who are new to cruise, a lot. So majority of the customer in Explorer, they haven't done any cruise before. They're coming really from the luxury hotel segment to us, where in MSC Cruises, of course, you see a lot of customers coming from new to brand, especially, and repeaters. So they have tried Royal, they have tried maybe AIDA and TUI, they have tried Carnival, and they're coming from that side. So this is, I think, much more interesting to see than the other one.
Cool. And yeah, what you see, I mean, you're very internationally working and focusing on very many different source markets. What are the opportunities and challenges of the internalization from MSC? I'm right fascinated because I think you're addressing so many different source markets. How you deal with this?
Well, I would say from a commercial point of view, it's always an opportunity because, of course, you have more source markets to serve, more customers for the ship. From the operational side on the ship, it's more a challenge. This is for sure clear. We have some specific markets where we see very clearly that mixing nationalities is a real challenge. This is, of course, also the reason why our peers, TUI and AIDA, are still maybe very, very German, or also some hotel concepts in Germany, like Robinson or Aldiana, are still very German. So we see it in Germany that there are some operational issues on that. We see it very clearly in China as well. So mixing Chinese customers with Europeans, so we try really to avoid that. It's not because they don't come along with each other, it's because that the customer requirements are very different. The customer requirements, especially on food and beverage, the customer requirements, especially on service, are still very, very different. But nevertheless, as you said, for me, a cruise company or a cruise ship is per se very international. So for us, it's really more an opportunity than a challenge, yeah.
I remember when the first tour operators tried to mix up the audience in Mallorca, like the English people and the German people, but I think in the cruise industry, the people are sitting more together on the ship and more close together, and so you have special concepts to address these kind of different audiences?
Not special concepts per se. So of course, on the bigger ships, we have certain districts. So we don't differentiate our customers by nationality. We differentiate them more really by a cluster. Like, do we have a certain district for families? Do we have a certain district really for people who want to make sport? Do we have a certain district really for people who would like to have culinary experiences? So we are clustering our ships, especially our bigger ones, because on the smaller ones it's quite hard to do so. More like that than like nationalities, yeah.
Okay. Most fascinated, I'm from your food corners, so this is what I've heard, very specific foods, quite interested. So if we look at this very international market and source markets, I guess if you talk a little bit more economically, how the pricing strategies you would have in these kind of source markets, is it quite harmonious or is it more like very much differentiated between the different source markets?
So first of all, what we can say in MSC, all our sales activities are very much localized. Very much localized. So all the sales activities, our sales activities in Germany are very different from our sales activities in China. Nevertheless, there's of course one very strong knot in the headquarters, and this is revenue management, where it comes all together. And the general rule is of course the highest price wins. That's the general rule. Nevertheless, of course, we have of course also a lot of exceptions, which is of course due to purchasing power in the countries, but also due to some other facts. So let's take also a very plastic example. our major pain point, and this is also with all the cruise lines, is not really the pricing strategy, is more really to moving the ships from the winter to the summer. So for example, in the winter, MSC is by far market leader in South America. It's a very much winter destination, so South American summer destination. Normally we have to bring the ships then from South America back to Europe or back to the US. So for us, from a pricing perspective, it's more interesting, how can we keep really the ships whole year in one destination? And that's what we can see is more to have a pricing strategy more for the summer, more for the winter, than really more for nationalities.
In concerning the global pricing strategies, are these very complex, or do you try to keep it more like simple?
Well, that depends whom you ask in the headquarters, to be honest. Honestly speaking, I think it's still too complex, especially for first-time cruisers. Because you can choose the type of cabin, you can choose the type of cabin. Do you want to have the cabin in front of the ship, at the back of the ship? It's still, I think, very complex for first-time cruisers. I think we have to do it much more simple, like it's in the hotel industry. Yeah? But we already try to simplify. We already try to bundle it also into packages as well to make it more appealing and more simple to book. But it's still, but this is also not an MSC issue, I would say. It's also with our peers, what I see so far. It's still a bit too complex, yes.
Yeah. Okay, finally, looking in the future. So you're addressing, I think, new markets, as I read. It's you're getting to the US much more, but even as you just mentioned before already, Japan, India, China. This is a kind of global expansion strategy. Where you're heading for? What is the target?
Well, first of all, I need to say that MSC per se is a very global company, because MSC, due to our big cargo business we have, is already a very global company. Fairly speaking, in MSC, we have only one problem, is we don't have too many ships. So the capacity, as I said in the beginning, is our ships. So where do we put our ships? We would love to target especially much more India, but also there, we would love to have a kind of Indian cruises, for example, but we don't have any ship left for that. You said it, MSC compared to the other three major cruise lines is an European cruise line. So our guest structure is highly focused on European customers and not too much to US customers, unless US is by far the biggest market in the world. The other cruise lines like Royal, Carnival and NCL, they're coming from the US and coming now over to Europe, so the other way around, fairly speaking. So the question to answer is very clear for the next years. Our big focus, as we are already #1 in Europe and we have a market penetration and a market satisfaction in our biggest markets like Italy, like Spain, which are already very high, is really to go much more to the US, yes.
So you're mentioning US. For me, it will be interesting once more if you talk to UNWTO or so. They are looking for on the numbers of India in the future, like the Indian tourists, as well as China in the future again when borders are opening more and more. Do you also facing in these source markets?
Well, we are already in China with one ship, with MSC Bellissima. We are already in Japan as well. India is something which we are not in yet. It's a highly complex environment, I got to admit, but for sure, with our capacity increase the next years, which have to come, Far East, especially China and Japan, we would like to tackle much more, yes.
And to close the loop with the beginning, so if you talk about sustainability afterwards, you think this kind of progress you're planning, the plans you have, is going along with sustainability in the entire cruise market? So if everyone is focusing in more and more capacities, can we manage it? Can you manage it?
Well, fairly speaking, we have to, because there are regulations which force us to, which is also very good. But frankly speaking, when we look today to zero emission, which is a goal in a couple of years, which is right in front of our door, when we talk to our teams and also talk to the peers, then if we want really to come to a zero emission, then I would say 65 to 70% of that we can do by our own, but the last 30% has to come from industry solutions like alternative fuels, like it is in the airline industry as well.
Okay, so the potential for the entire industry. You say it's here, but we have still capacity issues, so we cannot build ships fast enough. I mean, 3 years ago, we were not talking about capacities. It was more like, is anyone going to cruise or sail anymore in the future? What is your perspective on the future development of the cruise industry? Is the cruise still the driver of the tourism industry, or how would you see it?
Yeah, if it's a driver, I don't know. So as I said, it's still, I would say, a niche. It's still very small, but it will grow by a couple of million cruise passengers till 2027. And for me, the key is indeed not to get more repeaters. The key is for me, how can we get really first-time cruisers on board? And if we can do so, then the increase will be, of course, a bit more. But again, you can see it also in the reports of our peers. The ships all of them are pretty much packed already.
Yeah. So if you are talking about new segments, about new target groups, this is mainly coming from the entire tour operator business, as I learned some time ago, because everyone is looking not to cannibalize the other cruise companies, but more like to get on these kind of segments, as you just mentioned, that are getting on board first time or so.
No, indeed, and also the other cruise lines. So I'm really avoiding to call them competitors. So really try to tell it's our peers, because our product, even in Germany, is very different to the product of AIDA and TUI. Yeah? AIDA and TUI are still a very Germanized product. For us, it's not, right? So I think there's still a lot of space for all the cruise lines to get more capacity in place and to get more clients.
Very good. More clients, more capacity. I think this is what we are looking for to see in the future in the cruise market. Georg, thank you very much. We are running out of time. Thank you. It was a very interesting talk.
Thank you.
Yes. So we will have a quick change on the stage, and afterwards we go on with a topic from flight destination to integrated value-added model transformation made in Arabia. It's going to be very interesting. Please keep with us. Thank you.